Hello. Today I thought I would take a look at some bad reviews of my favourite books because I'm, self-destructive like that. Look at the Skies Everywhere by Jandy Nelson. It's one of my absolute favourites of all time. It's kind of a comfort book for me, so I'm excited to see what these people have to say about it. Eric over here says that the book is too hippy-dippy, which, is a great title for a review, in my opinion, and not entirely an inaccurate representation of the book, but that's kind of the point. I'd also like to point out that if Eric is the person in his profile picture, he's definitely not the intended target audience for this, so we're going to take his review with a little pinch of salt. Anyway, this guy says he has a hard time getting into a story where the main conflict is, do I choose this boy or that boy? I would just like to argue that the main conflict in this book is definitely not a choice between the boys. There is no choice between the boys in this book. It's very obvious that she is not supposed to be with one of these people. And, without giving too much away, I feel like the main conflict of this story is Lenny dealing with her grief. And possibly there is a lot of focus on romance, but I feel like the love triangle is actually not as big of a deal as a lot of these reviews are making out. I just wanted to say that. Because, I'm butthurt and this guy's a grown man talking about a book that is, aimed toward teenage girls. And he's bashing it for having a love triangle, which, was very popular at the time that this book came out. Also, I didn't notice this before, but he says, maybe this is a thing girls go through, maybe it's a problem they like to read about, but it makes me want to smack them all in the face. And I realised that he means the characters in the book, but the way that he structures the sentence makes it sound like he wants to smack a bunch of teenage girls in the face. So that isn't very good. And, he says the drama isn't even that good. He is referring to the, the love triangle drama. And I would argue the love triangle was not the main issue here. In any capacity. I can name a few themes in this book that are definitely higher up in priority than this love triangle. I feel like this guy has taken a personal contention to this, and I'm not happy. We're still with Eric, and this guy really says that this book in any way reminded him of Frozen, the Disney cartoon. And I would just like in any capacity to understand how this book is similar to Frozen in any way. Oh, I understand, the sister separation, maybe, but, in this book, Lenny is kind of always used to living in her sister's shadow, and now that her sister is gone, she's learning how to be a person without her sister there to kind of be the window between her and the rest of the world. Yeah, Anna doesn't really go through that. Anna's quite a confident person and, she really goes after what she wants, hence trying to marry a guy she just met because, she loves him. Duh. Apart from the fact that they are sisters and there is, an element of separation, there's not a lot of similarity here. Am I being too critical here? This is the first review I've looked at and I'm already getting pretty heated, Yeah, so Alice over here, says that she couldn't stand Lenny, and that Lenny didn't seem at all upset by her sister's death. I object to this. This isn't even me, this is my opinion, I fully object to this, I think this is wrong. The whole book is about her dealing with the being upset from her sister's death. How can you not have, she turns into a complete loner. She completely alienates all of her friends. She engages in this self-destructive behaviour that ruins the one relationship that she has got. And I understand that this is all contextual and that obviously maybe some of these things the main character Lenny doesn't realise herself. But we as a reader should be able to understand that these are not the actions of a person who is, okay. No. Love this one. 2 stars. Not read it yet. I love it. The cover is just that good. The next book I'm going to look at is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. It's one of the greatest books of all time, arguably. So we're going to take a look at what the general public of Amazon thinks about this. So I have noticed that these 2 reviews, both 1 star by the way, compare the film to dentistry. This top one has the title, "Reading this was like having dental work done." And the bottom one here, right at the bottom, it says, "My time spent doing better things, like getting a root canal." But I like that there's this universal, either there is a universal metaphor for comparing bad things to dental work that I don't know about, or this film hits a particular audience like a root canal. I don't know. Drivers here says, "Terrible. Book needs to be translated in English." Which, you know, is a fat mood on the sly, but I feel like a lot of these reviews obviously focus on the use of language in this book, which I can understand at first, but I think that if you just allow yourself to relax and look at the contextual clues around the word, and, you know, if you really need to, you can look it up. And after a while, the words stop being new to you and you get used to it. The immersion in the world. And it's a level of immersion that you don't get in other books. So, you know, you should at least give it a try, man. Because I assume if you're reading a classic like this, you want the immersion, no? You're an avid reader, you want the escapism. Please, if it was translated into English, an entire layer of the story would be completely lost, in my opinion. So, no English translation for you. Okay, so Christie's review, yeah, is a literary classic, okay? Yeah, she talks about, you know, the gibberish in the book and how it physically hurts her. I imagine her mouth is quite sore. But I just want to point out that her problems specifically with the characters, you know, they beat people up, smoke, and cause trouble all in a language that is not English. I didn't even read that end bit properly. So, we're not going to talk about the racist undertones. We're going to talk about the fact that out of all the things that Alex and his friends get up to in the course of this book, the things that she has a problem with the most are the beating people up, which, you know, fair enough. Violence is never the answer. The smoking, which, in all honesty, I don't remember an excessive amount of smoking in A Clockwork Orange. And then causing trouble, you know, just a general ruckus. Those boys, those hooligans, the malenkial little malchicks, you know, causing trouble, roughhousing in the streets. I'm just going to read you this little literary masterpiece from the math expert over here. First of all, he refers to A Clockwork Orange as a really good shit for the teen generation of today. And, you know, I just want to commend you for disliking the book enough that you gave it 1 star, but having read it enough and understood it enough that you can use, you know, the made-up language from it in a correct context. Like, go you. I now take your review into consideration. Oh, anyway, he continues with his, you know, very clear understanding of the English language by saying, A Clockwork Orange is one of those books that is chiefly aimed at brainless teenage fanboys that have absolutely no idea what is cool or like to label uncool whatever as cool. Henceforth, the oversaturation of love for Stanley Kubrick's vision of Anthony Burgess's heap of trash. I can agree that a lot of teenage fanboys do love this film, and I have teenage fanboys to thank for introducing me to this film. And I feel like a lot of people will come across this film because of that, and so for that, all I can say is thank God for teenage fanboys. This review also brings up the fact that A Clockwork Orange was published with 2 different endings. And he says, so this starts the debate, which one is better? Well, in my opinion, A Clockwork Orange should have ended at chapter 19 when Alex threw himself out of the window. Good riddance right there. Which, although I know used as a humorous point, I would be willing to debate him on this about whether this would have made the novel more effective or not. So I feel like this was a good point. I like this review. It's very satirical and it's very obvious that he read the whole book and that he has a passion for not only reading but linguistics. So I appreciate a good bad review and I can take on the points that they bring up a little bit. However, this particular review, while amusing to me, has not really brought up any salient points that I can really argue for or against. He said that A Clockwork Orange is one of the most unrealistic books he's had the displeasure to read, which, considering it's like a sci-fi, is kind of the point. I don't know what he means by it's manipulative in terms of human emotions, criminal proceedings, and physics. Books are supposed to manipulate human emotions, and I don't know how this book has managed to manipulate any criminal proceedings or any laws of physics. In conclusion, my review of this review is that although it is written beautifully, the points raised really just amount to, I didn't like it. So, yeah, I'm right. I'm right. This is a good book. So I just typed Holly Bawn into the search bar because it doesn't really matter, and the first thing that came up was the Manifesto on How to Be Interesting, which is actually my favourite book of hers, so let's go. Oh my god, my girl Atlas is going off. I'm not reading all that though. A lot of these reviews are criticising, the unrealistic character dialogue and the unlikable characters, and also the student-teacher relationship that is present in the pages of this book. And all of these things I find are fair criticisms. But one thing that I have seen written time and again in these reviews is that book reads like a book version of like Mean Girls. I think that Bawn and a lot of the people reading her was kind of inspirations of people who kind of Mean Girls was the teen girl media of that generation. And to kind of return to that style of story while also trying to, push some feminist, some leftist views in there, I thought that was kind of Bawn's attempt at being subversive. To compare this to Mean Girls is not a criticism, my friend. You do know what Mean Girls is, right? I mean, Amy, my girl here, she knows what Mean Girls is. She liked Mean Girls. So why is she complaining? I don't know. Seems pretty sus. We're going to take a look at What's a Girl Gotta Do as well. I don't hold out much hope for this because this is the third book in a trilogy, so anybody who read this was probably pretty invested already, but a couple of people might have read it by accident. I've got an amazing little review here from Tom that complains about the bad language in the book, such as the word bitch, and also the words prick tease. Apparently this person is not easily shocked, guys. A lot of these reviews seem to be of the opinion that this is the worst book in the Spinster Club series, and I feel let down. I feel like an anomaly right now. How can you say that? Lottie's great. Oh my god, Will's great. Oh my god, I'm crying. I shouldn't have looked at this one. We're going to look at Am I Normal Yet? I did try to look at Are We Lemmings and Snowflakes, but there weren't really a lot of negative reviews for that one, which, I'm happy about, but it's not really good for content, is it? This is the first Holly Bawn book I ever read, and it has a very special place in my heart, and so we're going to go with it. So Amy's reading note here brings up a very important point, and one that I touched on in some of my Holly Bawn reviews. She says that the girls in Am I Normal Yet keep preaching about feminism and supporting each other, whilst the whole time pulling down the other girl because she's a bit obsessed with her boyfriend. And I understand that, the mixed messages can be frustrating when you think about the impact on, younger readers who are going to take these messages a little closer to heart than we will. But the fact of the matter is that this book also centers around teenagers. And so, their ideas about feminism and stuff are not completely formed yet. And I feel like this concept of them ragging on their friend for being obsessed with her boyfriend is actually touched on in the book, and about how it's not very feminist. And so it is addressed. And I just feel like sometimes we need to look contextually at the characters and say if they were completely perfect feminists, which, I'm not quite sure one of those actually exists. If they were perfect feminists at the ages of 17, then it wouldn't be very interesting to read about their journey into feminism. No? Which is essentially what these 3 books are really about when you get down to the nitty-gritty of it, and what Holly Bourne was intending, or what I assume she was intending, with these books. So yes, I can understand that the mixed messages of feminism can be frustrating, but it's called cognitive dissonance, and it's literally discussed in the book, so hush. So a couple of the reviews have touched on this. They say that they feel like the feminism stuff was shoehorned in awkwardly and unnaturally. And this is referring to the actual spinster club that the girls have in the books. And in this spinster club, they kind of discuss different aspects of feminism, and it can get a bit ranty. And I understand that this can feel like these girls are just kind of a mouthpiece for the author and what she wants to directly say to the teenage girls who she knows are reading her books. I can understand that. And, sometimes before this club is formed, it kind of comes from a place of one of the girls is a little bit of an intellectual, and she reads up on feminism and stuff in her spare time, and she'll be like, oh, I was reading this thing the other day. Yeah, it can feel like it's kind of shoehorned in, and I suppose I can see the point of view of it bringing a halt to the narrative in a lot of ways, but also you could argue that this is more realistic to the way that things go in real life, because if you were reading something interesting about feminism the other day and you were with your friends who were also interested in feminism, you would probably tell them about the interesting thing you were reading about feminism the other day. I think we're going to round this off with a little bit Holly Black, because, first of all, representing my girl, and she had a little boom in popularity pretty recently because of her Folk of the Air series. So let's take a look, I guess. Here we go. This is the kind of thing I'm fucking talking about, yeah. And over here, and a lot of other people, they're saying, oh yeah, another YA that promotes abusive relationships. Can we talk for a second about how this book also promotes relationships with fairies? I think it's absolutely disgusting that Holly Black is encouraging young people to get into relationships with fairies, to actively seek them out and have relationships with them. Oh, okay. This was a subject that I discussed at length in my review of The Cruel Prince. And actually, what we see in the book, there are very limited things that Cardan actually does to Jude. Usually, the bad things are done to her by his friends, etc. I'm not going to go into it again, but Jude focuses on Cardan as the person who she hates the most, because he's the most opulent of her adversaries. He's literally the king's son, and so he represents everything that she hates about fairies, and so she kind of fixates on him as the one who is behind all of her abuse. And so reading the book from her perspective has kind of led a lot of people to see Cardan as this abusive person, when actually throughout the narrative, and maybe this is getting into the second book a little bit, so I can understand how people who read the first book might have a little bit of a negative view of Cardan compared to other people. And obviously I'm not saying that Cardan is not problematic or toxic in any way, because again, he's a furry. But reviews like this have taken Jude's personal point of view to heart, and even by the end of the first book, we've seen that some of Jude's preconceived notions of Carden are being challenged. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say. Anyway, shut up. Shut up, me. Shut up. Nobody cares what you have to say, okay? They just want you to cry because these people don't like your favourite books. This person also says that because the children of the gentry are allowed to so publicly bully Jude and her sister in this book, that means that a message is sent that it's okay to bully people if you're important. She says that if the book doesn't flat out show that, then please feel free to tell her what it says. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. These actions are never shown in a positive light. Our protagonist is literally the victim of this bullying. We see directly how it affects her and her mental state and how it makes her feel like less than nothing. And I would argue that actually this shows that bullying is pretty fucking bad. Okay, so I'm gonna finish up with the best fucking review I've ever seen from Elizabeth over here, boy. Jude, the protagonist, is so lacking in personality and motives and any emotion that most of the time it felt as though she didn't exist and the story was being told by a bush. A bush that sometimes talks or stabs people. Jude has no feelings other than what she says she feels, which, Jude, I don't believe you. I love this. This is clearly a passionate review. This person didn't enjoy the book. I'm down with it. Honestly, Jude is a very unfeeling character, but that is part of her character, and I can understand why this would not appeal to a lot of people. I didn't even like Jude the first time I read this book. I am a firm believer in the fact that you don't have to like the protagonist of a story to enjoy the book, and I actually like books that have unlikable protagonists a little bit more, just because obviously the story around that protagonist has to be so involving that your dislike of the main character is overcome by it. And clearly that was not the case for this person, for Elizabeth. I've been going for some time, so I'm gonna go. Peace.